My hands trembled as I held the envelope, my name scrawled across it in jagged handwriting. I didn't recognize the writing, but the words inside cut deep. Your husband is not who you think he is. Ask him about Elise. Elise. My mind raced, my heart pounding. Derek wouldn't, he couldn't. I grabbed my phone, fingers fumbling. Jenna, it's me. We need to talk now. I paced the living room, bile rising in my throat as I waited for her to arrive. This had to be a sick prank, a cruel joke. Derek and I had our troubles, but he'd never betray me like this. Would he? Jenna burst through the front door, face etched with concern. What's going on? What's happened? Wordlessly, I handed her the note. She scanned it quickly, eyes widening. Who sent this? I don't know. It just arrived today. Jenna guided me to the couch. Breathe, hon. We'll figure this out. Anger flared suddenly. Figure what out? That my husband's screwing around behind my back with someone named Elise? Jenna squeezed my hand. You don't know anything yet. This could just be a fake letter trying to cause trouble. I sighed, my rage dissolving. You're right. I can't believe he'd do this to me. Not after everything. Not after the infidelity years ago. The counseling, his remorse, the promise we'd never go through that again. Jenna pursed her lips. I'll ask Alex to look into it, discreetly. If anything turns up, I swallowed hard. Did I even want to know? The next few weeks crawled by in agonizing slow motion. I scrutinized Derek's every move, looking for cracks in his routine. He seemed the same as always, if a bit distracted. More anonymous letters arrived, hinting at secrets. Elise's name echoed in my mind. Alex uncovered the first clues. Records of lavish gifts, a paper trail linking Derek and someone named E. Montgomery, but no concrete evidence of an affair. Until the phone records. Late-night calls and texts to a number I didn't recognize. Thousands of them over the past 6 months. No way it was for business. Rage simmered in my veins. How could he do this to us? After everything we'd survived? I confronted Derek one night after work, casting aside pretense. Who is she, Derek? He froze. What are you talking about? Don't play dumb. Who's Elise? Are you sleeping with her? Panic flitted across his face. No, of course not. There's no one else, I swear. I slammed the phone records down. Then explain this. Explain the gifts you sent her, the trips you took together. Explain the constant calls and texts behind my back. Derek paled. Marlene, please. My hands clenched. How long, Derek? How long have you been lying to me, betraying our vows, making a fool of me? Tears filled his eyes. I never meant. I love you, Marlene. Please let me fix this. I turned away, disgusted. Save it. I'm done with your lies. I had my proof now. My husband's betrayal laid bare. This was only the beginning. I would make him pay for every sleepless night, every moment he made me doubt myself, for breaking vows and my heart all over again. Derek would regret the day he ever heard the name Elise. How could he do this to me again? I fumed, pacing Jenna's living room. Jenna perched on the couch, lips pressed in a thin line. Derek's always been selfish. I warned you when you took him back the first time. I whirled to face her. I thought he'd changed. I thought our marriage meant something to him. Clearly it didn't. Alex's voice was grim. Once a cheater, always a cheater. Jenna shot him a look before turning back to me. What matters now is how you want to handle this. Derek betrayed your trust in the worst possible way. If you want to walk away... Oh, I'm not walking away, I cut in. I'm going to make him pay. Alex raised an eyebrow. What did you have in mind? I took a deep breath. I want to hit him where it hurts. I know things about Derek, secrets he's tried very hard to hide. Like the debt he'd racked up trying to climb the corporate ladder. All those business trips that were just excuses to gamble. I think it's time his pretty little mistress learned the truth about the man she's been spin-screwing. My voice dripped contempt. Once I expose who Derek really is, his affair with Elise will implode. Then I'll take him for everything he's worth. Jenna nodded slowly. All right, if you're sure this is what you want. I've never been more sure of anything. We ironed out a plan over the next few weeks, gathered every shred of evidence about the affair and Derek's lies. Elise thought she was sleeping with an ambitious executive. I couldn't wait to shatter that illusion. I bided my time, pretending I knew nothing, acted the dutiful wife while Derek carried on behind my back. Finally, the perfect opportunity arose, a family dinner at Derek's parents' country club. His parents had always thought I was beneath their precious son. Time to show them how wrong they were. I wore Derek's favorite black dress, wanting to look every inch the calm, confident wife. His parents greeted me with thin smiles and tight hugs. We sat down to dinner, the air simmering with tension. I made idle small talk, waiting for the right moment. Finally, when a lull hit midway through the main course, I struck. "Derek, don't you have some news for your parents?" I kept my tone light and sweet. Derek's fork froze halfway to his mouth. "What are you talking about?" I tilted my head. "Oh, I just thought you might want to tell them about the new baby on the way. They're going to be grandparents after all." His mother gasped. "A baby? But why wouldn't you tell us?" I turned to her with mocking sympathy. I'm sure Derek was just waiting for the right time, though it is a bit tricky since the mother is his mistress, Elise. Chaos erupted. Derek sputtered denials while his parents shouted recriminations. I sat back and watched it unfold with grim satisfaction. Finally, I slammed my hands on the table, silencing the room. I nudged Derek with contempt. "Go on, then. Tell them. Tell them what a lying, cheating failure you are." Derek shrank under my glare. When he stayed silent, I continued, relishing every word. "You want to know who your son really is? A liar, a fraud, up to his eyeballs in gambling debt. He used company money to finance trysts with his little whore." I slapped the proof down in front of his ashen parents. "So much for your perfect son, but I'm done covering for him. We're over, Derek. I quit." Let his house of cards collapse. I would be there to watch it crumble with a smile on my face. The fallout from the family dinner was swift and severe. Derek bombarded my phone with texts and voicemails, begging for another chance. His parents cut off contact completely, no doubt mortified by their son's disgrace. I ignored it all, refusing to let them guilt me into silence. They made their choices. Now they would face the consequences. The anonymous letters kept coming, hinting at secrets only Derek's mistress could know. I added them to the mounting pile of evidence. Soon, I would have enough to bury them both. I dove back into work, determined not to let Derek's betrayal affect my performance. The office rumor mill churned with speculation about my failing marriage and Derek's tawdry affair. I held my head high through it all. Let them talk. I had nothing to hide. Weeks later, Jenna called with an urgent discovery. "That mistress of Derek's? Her name's not Elise, it's Lisa. Lisa Montgomery." My breath caught. Montgomery? As in Silas Montgomery? Silas headed Montgomery Holdings, one of our biggest rivals. If Derek was sleeping with his daughter... "This goes deeper than we thought," Jenna said grimly. "Derek wasn't just cheating on you. He was using your marriage to get close to Montgomery Holdings through Lisa." Red-hot rage flooded me. My hands curled into fists. Bad enough Derek betrayed our vows again. He'd also jeopardized my career and reputation for his own gain. "That bastard," I seethed. "He doesn't just want to destroy our marriage, he wants to destroy me." "We're not going to let that happen." Jenna's voice hardened. "I've been digging into Montgomery Holdings. They're not as clean as they pretend to be." My pulse quickened. "What do you mean?" "Let's just say they have their fair share of skeletons. If this affair goes public, it could take down both Derek and Montgomery." I remembered Silas Montgomery's smug smile at the last trade conference, so assured of his dominance over my family's company. The thought of watching his empire crumble along with Derek's made my blood sing. "Do it," I told Jenna. "Full nuclear exposure. I want everyone to see their lies." I felt a perverse thrill making the plans, like pieces slotting into place. All those years bowing and scraping to get ahead, and for what? Men like Derek and Silas who used and abused anyone foolish enough to trust them. No more. I was done playing nice. The anonymous notes kept arriving, each more ominous than the last. Threats about what would happen if I didn't back down. Lisa clearly realized I wasn't going away quietly. I added the letters to the stack of evidence. Let Derek and his mistress threaten all they wanted. They couldn't intimidate me into silence. Not anymore. For the first time in years, I felt fully empowered. I walked taller, spoke up louder. Derek's betrayal had lit a fire in me, forged me into someone new, someone who wouldn't be pushed around or dismissed. Let them keep underestimating me. They had no idea what was coming. The day of reckoning had arrived. I woke up energized, ready to finally confront Derek and expose his lies. I dressed for battle, in a sharp black pantsuit and heels. Slicked on bold, red lipstick, armor against whatever vitriol Derek threw at me. I felt strong, unbreakable. At the office, I breezed through my morning meetings, anticipation thrumming under my cool exterior. I messaged Jenna and Alex. It's time. During lunch, I asked Derek to meet me in a private conference room. He arrived looking guarded, clearly expecting me to grovel. Not this time. I slid a file folder across the table. Do you know what this is? Derek eyed me warily as he opened it, then paled. Where did you get these? I smiled coldly. Records of all your little trips to the casino, the ones you claimed were for business, gambling away company money to fund your habit. I slapped down another folder. And let's not forget the mountain of debt you've accumulated. Tell me, does your mistress Lisa know about your financial issues? Or did you lie to her like you lied to me? Derek shoved back his chair. Enough. I won't sit here and listen to these outrageous accusations. My hand shot out, clutching his wrist. Oh no, you're going to sit here and listen to every word, unless you want these files leaked to the board. I held his gaze. Well? Sweat beaded his forehead. Slowly, he sat back down. I smiled, all ice. That's what I thought. I slid the divorce papers across the table. Derek stared at them, dumbstruck. Sign them. This marriage is over and you know it. When he still hesitated, I pressed harder. Come on, Derek. Sign the papers so you can run to Lisa with a clear conscience. She is pregnant, isn't she? His head jerked up, eyes wide with shock. I waved a hand. Oh, please. You didn't actually think I was ignorant about your affair this whole time, did you? I leaned forward. Now sign, or everyone we know will find out exactly what kind of man they married. Your choice. With shaking hands, Derek scrawled his signature on the paperwork. I gathered the file folders and stood abruptly. Our lawyers will be in touch about the divorce settlement. Don't even think of trying to screw me over, Derek. You know I can and will destroy you if you do. I walked steadily from the room, head high. The confrontation had gone even better than I planned. Now for the final blow. At dinner that evening, I sat waiting with Jenna and Alex. Derek's parents arrived first, both tense. When Derek joined us, I shared a knowing look with Jenna. Time to light the final fire. We made it through the salad course before I broke the silence. Well, Derek, don't you have an announcement for your parents? Derek paled. Before he could respond, I continued cheerfully. Derek's going to be a father. Isn't that lovely news? A hush fell over the table. Then came the explosion. Derek's parents shouted and raged as Derek sat, condemned. I watched it all with grim satisfaction, the inferno I'd stoked consuming them completely. Finally I stood, silencing the room. I faced my in-laws, triumph surging through me. You're welcome to the cheating mess of a son you raised. Consider this my official resignation from this family. I'm done covering for him. I strode out without looking back, Derek's shouts echoing behind me. I'd laid waste to everything he valued. Now to focus on building myself back up from the ashes. The fallout from my confrontation with Derek was immediate. He blew up my phone, leaving pleading voicemails and apologetic texts. His parents called too, demanding I reconsider. I ignored them all. The time for mercy was over. Jenna came over to debrief. That was an epic takedown. How are you holding up? I sighed. Relieved it's finally out in the open, but I want to make sure he doesn't get away with this. She nodded. What do you need from me? I want to go after Derek financially in the divorce, bleed him dry, and I want to destroy his reputation. Jenna raised an eyebrow. Playing hardball, I like it. I can start drafting aggressive terms for the settlement. Good, he doesn't get to walk away from this unscathed. My phone buzzed with yet another pleading message from Derek. Delete. What about his mistress Lisa? Jenna asked. Any plans there? I smiled slowly. Oh yes. She wanted Derek so badly, she can have what's left of him. I'd spent years buried under Derek's lies. Never again. From now on, people would know exactly who they were dealing with. While Jenna handled the legal side, Alex and I planned Derek's social downfall. A few anonymous tips later, and the story of his tawdry affair and excessive gambling spread like wildfire through the office gossip channels. Derek was promptly placed on leave, pending an ethics investigation. I saved the damning evidence to leak publicly, if needed. With Derek's reputation in tatters, I asked Alex to dig deeper on Lisa. There had to be more ammunition we could use against her. Sure enough, he uncovered her damaging history as a homewrecker. Other affairs, broken engagements, manipulated men. She was a predator, and Derek her latest prey. Armed with the information, I reached out to her directly for the first time. Lisa, we need to talk, woman to woman. She agreed to meet for coffee. As we sat staring at each other over lattes, I felt only cold contempt for the woman sitting across from me. Calculating, manipulative, cruel. She and Derek deserved each other. I slid a file over to her. I assume you know who I am. Lisa glanced through the photos and records inside, then paled. Where did you get these? That's not important. What is important is that you stay away from my husband. She stiffened. Ex-husband. And I'll do as I please. I leaned forward. I know women like you, Lisa. You target married men to satisfy some twisted need for power. I'm sure Derek spun quite the tale to get in your bed. I tapped the file. But lies don't hold up forever. The truth has a way of coming out. I held her gaze. Leave Derek. Focus on that baby, if it's even his, because if you don't, everyone you've ever crossed paths with will learn exactly what kind of person you are. I guarantee it. I left a shaken Lisa behind. Let her worry Derek would learn the truth, too. I wanted her constantly looking over her shoulder, like I'd had to do. Jenna was right. Playing hardball felt good. Taking back my power, exposing the ugliness Derek tried to hide, felt damn near euphoric. No more being the dutiful, forgiving wife. That woman died the day I learned Derek betrayed me again. Now someone new had risen from her ashes, someone who would never be used or dismissed again. I had been reborn, and it was time for my new life to begin. After exposing Derek's lies, I finally felt free. No more constantly looking over my shoulder, wondering when the next betrayal would come. It was liberating. The divorce proceedings advanced swiftly with the mountain of evidence against Derek. My lawyer assured me I'd get everything I asked for in the settlement. Derek didn't stand a chance. His mom still called frequently, pleading with me to give her son another chance. I blocked her number. They'd all shown their true colors. Now, they could live with the consequences. A few weeks later, Jenna called me grimly. We have a problem. Lisa's still in the picture. Derek convinced her the baby is his. I pinched the bridge of my nose. Of course he did. Derek could charm his way out of anything when backed into a corner. She's pressuring him to get shared custody in the divorce, Jenna continued. Playing happy new family. An icy rage filled me. So they thought they could try and play me, even now? Like hell. Set up a family dinner. Here, I want them all under one roof. Time for the final reckoning with Derek, Lisa, and his toxic parents. No more manipulating shadows, everything out in the open. On the night, I dressed in black armor again, bold red lipstick my war paint. Jenna and Alex arrived first, grimly determined. Right on time, Derek walked in with his parents flanking him on either side. Lisa trailed behind, wearing a dress stretched tight over her swollen belly. I greeted them with a shark-like smile. So nice to have the whole family together again. We sat, tension simmering. I kept the conversation light, biding my time, waiting until the main course was served before dropping my first verbal bomb. Lisa, you're positively glowing. When are you due? She blinked, hand going instinctively to her belly. Early next month. How exciting. Derek must be thrilled to welcome his first child. Across the table, Derek paled. Lisa shifted in her seat. Yes, well, we're both very happy. I'm sure, I smiled pleasantly. Though didn't you tell me you two only started seeing each other last fall? What an accelerated timeline. The table went silent. Lisa's eyes widened fractionally. Gotcha. Derek's mom recovered first. That's enough now, Marlene. Stop these ugly accusations. I ignored her, focusing on Lisa. Sweetie, surely you're aware Derek was still very much with me when you supposedly got pregnant? I hope he at least told you the truth about our relationship timeline. You lying bitch, Derek spat. Don't pretend our marriage was some happy fantasy. You checked out years ago. I shook my head. And whose fault was that, Derek? Or have you forgotten your chronic habit of screwing anything that walks? Chaos erupted. Lisa accused Derek of deceit. He shouted desperately, appealing to his parents for backup. They in turn screamed at me for causing a scene. Finally, I slammed my hand down, fed up. Enough, I'm done with the lies. I locked eyes with Lisa. That baby is not his. Stunned silence. Lisa's hand clutched her belly. How dare you? I tossed the paternity test results down with a thwop, watching the color drain from Derek's face. No more hiding. Lisa dissolved into tears. Derek vehemently denied it, but I could see the truth dawning in his eyes. They'd tried to play me, and lost. Badly. Checkmate. I stood up calmly and addressed Lisa. You want Derek? You can keep him, but this ends tonight. We're done. I turned and strode away, finally free. Let Derek and Lisa turn on each other. My hands were clean. The family dinner felt like a tipping point. After exposing Lisa's lies, it was all finally crumbling for her and Derek. Lisa disappeared from the social scene, no doubt embarrassed by the entire affair. Derek bombarded me with angry texts, but I stood firm. We were over. Professionally, things shifted in my favor too. With Derek disgraced, upper management started relying on me more. I stepped up, determined to prove myself. A few weeks later, Jenna called me excitedly. "You're never going to believe who just reached out to me." "Who?" "Liam Montgomery, Lisa's ex-husband." I sat up straighter. This was an interesting development. What did he want? "To talk to you. Apparently you two have a common enemy." I considered this. Liam had divorced Lisa years earlier under mysterious circumstances. If anyone knew secrets I could use against her, it was him. Set up a meeting, but discreetly. If word got back to Derek or Lisa... Jenna agreed. "I'll handle it. This could be the ammunition we need to finally shut them down for good." We met Liam at a small cafe downtown. I studied the handsome, well-dressed man as he approached. He had a wounded air about him, despite the tailored suit and easy smile. "Marlene, thank you for meeting me." We exchanged pleasantries before I cut to the chase. "What do you want with me, Liam?" His face darkened. "Straight to business. I appreciate that. We have a common enemy in your husband and my ex-wife." I raised an eyebrow. "Go on." "I have information that could ruin them both socially and professionally, but I'll only share if we work together." I considered his offer. Liam had resources and insider access at his family's company. Combined with my evidence against Derek, we could inflict real damage. I extended my hand. "You have a deal." Liam broke into a sharp grin. "Excellent." We hashed out a plan to strategically leak information about Derek's unethical behavior and Lisa's sordid history. A coordinated takedown. Within days, the gossip rags were buzzing with sordid rumors about Derek's gambling and Lisa's affairs. The business journals questioned shady dealings at Montgomery Holdings. Their reputations were being shredded. But I wasn't done yet. Liam came through with one final bombshell. Evidence linking Lisa and Derek to corporate espionage against my family's company. Enough proof for authorities to get involved. I called an emergency meeting with the executives and board members, Liam by my side. As we presented the damaging documents, outrage erupted around the room. Derek's treachery went deeper than any of us realized. He'd abused his position to undercut the very company that had given him a career. The board immediately voted to fire Derek and pursue criminal charges. Justice was finally being served. As we left the meeting, Liam turned to me. "I know this was about revenge for you, but I wanted to say thank you. Exposing Lisa and Derek, it brought me closure too." I saw the sincerity in his eyes. Liam hadn't just been motivated by payback. He needed to regain control after Lisa destroyed his life too. I understood completely. "Of course. And thank you for having the courage to come forward. I'm just sorry you got caught in Lisa's web, too." Liam nodded, looking thoughtful. "You know, now that it's all over, maybe we could get dinner sometime." I considered him handsome, successful, principled. A man I knew I could trust. "I'd like that," I replied, and I meant it. With Derek ruined professionally and Lisa in hiding, I decided to make my final move, seizing control of the company from Derek's family. As acting head of the business, I reviewed operations with a critical eye, building an airtight case for mismanagement under my father-in-law's leadership. With Liam's help, I also uncovered financial irregularities suggesting embezzlement. The old guard had been bleeding the company dry for years. No more. I called an emergency shareholders meeting and presented the damning evidence. When I proposed a vote of no confidence in the current leadership, the motion passed swiftly. The board named me as interim CEO. After the meeting, I stopped by my father-in-law's office. He sat grimly packing his possessions into a box. "I hope you're satisfied, taking everything from our family." His voice shook with bitterness. I tilted my head. "Satisfied? No, I won't be satisfied until your toxic son is permanently out of my life." My father-in-law slammed his fists on the desk. "Damn you, Marlene. Derek loved you." I laughed coldly. "Loved me? Is that what you call his chronic affairs and betrayals?" I leaned in close, punctuating each word. "He never loved me." With that, I walked out, leaving the old man fuming impotently. One chapter closed. With the company secure, I turned my attention to finalizing the divorce. My lawyer was ruthlessly efficient, securing me the house, investments, and a generous settlement in return for keeping Derek's misdeeds quiet. The day the papers were signed, I invited Jenna over to celebrate. I raised a glass. Here's to new beginnings. She clinked her glass against mine. To new beginnings, and Marlene 2.0, who takes no shot from anyone. I laughed, feeling lighter than I had in years. Derek was finally out of my life for good. Marlene 2.0, I liked the sound of that. A few weeks later, Liam took me out to dinner at an upscale restaurant downtown. Over wine and candlelight, our talk turned serious. I have to confess, I had an ulterior motive asking you here tonight, Liam said. I want to make this, us, official. He took my hands in his. You are an extraordinary woman, Marlene. I know we started off with revenge in common, but what I feel goes so much deeper now. I looked into his earnest eyes and saw genuine emotion there, a real second chance. I feel the same way, I confessed. I tried to deny it at first, but you've shown me I can love and trust again. I want that future with you. Liam broke into a smile. Then let's build it together. The next day, he accompanied me to Derek's mother's palatial estate. I handed her a copy of the divorce decree. It's done. Your son is dead to me now in every way. I trust there will be no further contact from any of you. My former mother-in-law glared. You'll regret this, Marlene. I glanced at Liam and squeezed his hand. No, I don't think I will, but Derek will, for the rest of his life. We walked out together into the sunshine, leaving the toxic past behind. I had everything I needed right beside me. The story of my marriage's ugly implosion made headlines for a while, but I held my head high through the gossip and whispers. I had nothing to hide anymore. In time, new scandals seized the public's attention. My reputation recovered, stronger than ever. With Liam as my partner, I transformed the company into a thriving modern business, and I took my rightful place as CEO on my own terms. My past self was gone, a distant memory. Now a powerful, unstoppable woman had risen in her place. Unbreakable, unstoppable, unleashed at last. This was my time now.
That's why I requested you to settle the debt. The burden my husband suddenly imposed on me, vanishing without a trace. No matter how persistently I tried to reach him, there was absolute silence. Now, I'm left wondering what to do, facing an insurmountable debt. Fortunately, in my moments of despair, there was someone by my side offering encouragement. My dear daughter. Mom, cheer up, echoed the soothing voice of my beloved daughter. My name is Kate, 35 years old, juggling part-time work and homemaking. My husband, Rogan, and I, along with our daughter, make up our family of 3. I met Rogan at a mixer, a casual event I attended just to fill the numbers. Despite my nervousness, Rogan took the initiative to strike up a conversation, effortlessly lightening the atmosphere. Before long, we connected and decided to exchange contact information. As our communication deepened, a special bond blossomed between us. Unexpectedly, we started dating, a twist I shared with my older sister Talia after our first date. To my surprise, Talia burst into laughter, commenting, "I never thought you'd choose a boyfriend from a mixer." She assumed I'd find someone through work. Talia, enjoying her single life, didn't seem eager for a relationship. Fast forward a few years and Rogan and I got married. Talia congratulated us on our new life together. Our early days of marriage were filled with joy. Rogan's proposal and our move to a new apartment marked the beginning of our life as a married couple. Although our different work hours meant we seldom returned home together, we cherished the time spent dining, sleeping, and enjoying our days off together. This routine brought a new joy to our lives, and a few months later, we were blessed with the birth of our adorable daughter, Rhea. The emotional impact of Rhea's birth was profound, and I felt like I had found true happiness. Our families showered us with congratulatory gifts, celebrating this new addition. I resigned from my job to dedicate myself fully to my family and Rogan, always considerate, helped with housework and childcare. However, a few years later, regret began to seep into my heart. Rogan, after resigning from his job due to issues with a new superior, failed to communicate this significant decision to me beforehand. While I empathize with the challenges he faced at work, the abruptness of his resignation left me concerned, especially since our family relied on his income. The absence of any discussion or consultation added to my distress. That was so sudden. Have you already thought about your next job? I questioned him, grappling with the unforeseen turn of events. Yeah, don't worry. I'll figure something out. Rogan's vague response failed to ease my concerns. However, it seemed the only option now was to trust him. Fortunately, Rogan quickly secured a new job, a relief for both of us. I also considered working, but since Rhea is still young, I want to be there for her at home. Is everything okay at the new workplace? Have you settled in? I inquired, attempting to gauge his well-being. Yeah, somehow. Did something happen? Are you not getting along with your boss or colleagues? I persisted. I told you I'm fine. Don't worry too much. Look, I'll take care of Rhea, so you go and take a bath. Really, thank you, he responded. Though he seemed different than usual, I refrained from prying further and handed Rhea to him before heading to the bath. A few days later, Rogan returned home looking dejected. As I tried to inquire about what had happened, memories of his abrupt resignation flashed through my mind. Did he quit his job again within such a short period? I quit my job. I just couldn't get along with the people there. I couldn't stand being constantly directed by someone much younger than me. I just couldn't bear it anymore, he explained. I see, but we'll get through this. We'll find another job. I'll help in any way I can. Suddenly, Rogan's expression changed, and he raised his voice at me. Hey, what's with that look? You don't like that I quit? You're able to eat because I work. You just stay at home and you're acting all high and mighty. After throwing his bag onto the living room table, he continued, Shut up. Just be quiet. Unable to contain his anger, Rogan grabbed a whiskey from the fridge and downed it in one gulp. I had never seen him this angry before. I felt terrified at that moment. Despite my gratitude towards him and efforts to be supportive, an extremely angry Rogan shouted at me for a while, then slumped down on the sofa looking grumpy. I was so shocked that all I could do was accept his words, and this incident created a rift in our relationship. Since then, Rogan has been caught in a cycle of finding and quitting jobs, leaving us in uncertainty with many anxious days. I couldn't keep silent any longer. Rogan, can't you be a bit more serious about your job? If you have complaints, then you work and earn money. You rely too much on me, but there's Rhea to consider. So what's your point? Lately, Rogan has been gradually losing interest in Rhea and seems to be avoiding her. When Rhea was born, he took great care of her and was genuinely happy. Observing Rogan now, he felt like a completely different person. No matter how much I pleaded, Rogan showed no interest in continuing his work. Eventually, I decided to entrust Rhea to Talia and started working on my own. I'm really sorry for having to leave her with you. I apologized to Talia. It's okay. Rhea and I will wait together, she reassured me. Rhea, who had just started attending kindergarten, wasn't a major concern. Part of it was because I trusted Talia to take care of her. But Rhea was also remarkably mature and calm for her age. She showed interest in newspapers, read them on her own, and could even write long and somewhat complex sentences. Rhea had a quiet disposition and was exceptionally composed for her age. When she started attending kindergarten, I was concerned about whether she'd be able to make friends and effectively communicate with others besides me. However, it turned out I didn't need to worry. Rhea made many friends in kindergarten and enjoyed her time there. As a parent, that was the most heartwarming thing to witness, given the situation. I felt it would be no problem for me to work outside the home. When I started looking for a job, I found one quicker than expected, and I began working full-time. The pay was better than I had anticipated, and even if Rogan quit his job, our finances would probably stabilize. Thankfully, the work environment was also pleasant, and despite the busy days, I enjoyed working. A few years after I began working, Rogan finally found a stable job. It seemed like he had finally found a workplace that satisfied him. Learning this brought a profound sense of relief. Over time, Rogan's demeanor brightened, and he seemed to return to the man I knew in the early days of our marriage. He became considerate of the challenges I faced juggling work and family, often asking, "Has it been tough? Aren't you tired?" I was a bit taken aback by this transformation. Perhaps job stability had given Rogan peace of mind. Rhea was growing up healthily, and Rogan started acting like a caring father to her once again. Seeing Rhea play joyfully with Rogan always warmed my heart. Still, the thought of returning to the way things were before made me anxious about leaving my job. Therefore, I continued to rely on Talia for childcare. "How's Rhea? Is she looking well?" I would ask Talia. "Don't worry, she's playing happily," she reassured me. If Rhea was doing well, I could be at ease. I probably would continue to depend on Talia. I had been considering treating Talia to something she liked as a token of my appreciation. Several years went by, and Rhea was now in the 3rd grade of elementary school. She attended school every day with great enthusiasm. The family's bond was just like before, harmonious and loving. I wondered what had caused the previous rift between Rogan and me. Our home life felt so stable, almost as if the past problems had been forgotten. Then, one day, Rogan made a suggestion. "Ever think about getting a new car?" I was taken aback. "A new car?" "Yeah, our current car is good, but I think it's reaching the end of its life. If it's becoming a hassle to maintain, indeed the car we were using had been purchased quite a while ago. Over the years, issues increased, and the repair costs started to pile up. You might be right. Maybe we should consider a new car." "Yes, I knew you'd agree. By the way, I've already got some catalogs pulled ready." "Thanks." I didn't expect him to be this eager about replacing the car. I was a bit surprised, but we started looking through the catalogs together. "Rhea, come here. Which car do you want to ride in? Let's decide together." He called Rhea over, and the 3 of us enjoyed flipping through the car catalogs together. However, I couldn't have imagined that this day would mark the beginning of an unexpected turn of events. A few months later, the new car that the 3 of us chose was delivered. The car we bought was a brand new model costing over $155,000. The loan was under my name. Generally, people would expect Rogan's name on the loan, but considering his unstable work history, we were concerned about being rejected. I was determined to work even harder from now on and pay off the loan. I was sure Rogan felt the same way, that's what I believed. But my hopes were shattered in an instant. Rogan stopped coming home. He disappeared along with the newly purchased car. Could it be that Rogan got involved in some kind of trouble? What should I do? At that moment, my cell phone rang. The call was from Rogan. "Hello, Rogan. Where are you? What are you doing?" Out of concern, my voice raised unintentionally. "Hey, calm down. But you disappeared all of a sudden, and the new car is gone. What happened? Did you get caught up in some trouble?" I tried to convey how I had worried every day until then, but Rogan laughed at my concerns and said something unbelievable. "Actually, I found a new lover. She's more important to me than you." "What? What do you mean? Let me be clear." "I've fallen in love with someone else. I've already taken care of the divorce notice. I'd appreciate it if you stopped getting involved." "Wait, divorce? I can't believe this." I was shocked by the mention of a divorce notice. However, I remembered a discussion we had during a big fight a while ago. Submitting the application to the court means that both parties agree to the divorce. I deeply regretted letting my emotions take control at that time. "Oh, by the way, I have a debt. I'm counting on you to repay it." "What? How much debt are we talking about?" "I think $200,000, give or take. I'm leaving all the repayments to you." With those words, Rogan abruptly hung up the phone. I never thought something like this would happen to me. Were all of his kind smiles in the past just lies? As these thoughts crossed my mind, I could feel the strength drain from my body. "Mom, what happened?" As I slumped to the floor, Rhea rushed over, looking concerned. "It's okay, honey. Thank you." I tried to put on a brave face, but inside, I was filled with anxiety. How will I manage our life now with such a massive debt looming over us? The thought of the $200,000 made me feel suffocated. On top of that, there was still the car loan to think about. In a state of panic, I decided to check my bank balance, searching everywhere. Closet, drawers, kitchen, bedroom. But my ATM card was nowhere to be found. Frantically, I launched my bank app on my smartphone. And to my horror, the account balance had significantly decreased. I had no memory of withdrawing such an amount, and the only suspect was Rogan. Trying to contact him proved futile, and with my mind going blank, I thought I should focus on earning money. I chose to keep this a secret from Talia and young Riev to avoid unnecessary worry. A few weeks after Rogan disappeared, I lost consciousness at work. Upon waking up, I found myself in a hospital bed, where Talia and Ria revealed they knew about Rogan and my deteriorating health. Ryan had overheard Rogan's phone call, and Talia, surprisingly furious, wanted to locate Rogan to make him repay the debt and medical bills. However, Rogan's whereabouts remained unknown. When I was discharged, I fell down, fearing Talia's reprimand for letting her know. Various tests revealed my poor health was due to cancer, still in the early stages with hope for recovery through surgery. Though the surgery went well, returning to work immediately seemed impossible due to mounting medical bills and no savings. During these challenging times, Talia and Ria became my pillars of support. Talia tried to locate Rogan, and when she discovered he was working in the same building, they hatched a plan to get back the car that was under my name. As we prepared to confront Rogan, Talia stopped me, emphasizing the need for a solid plan. Raya reassured me that everything was set up, and a month later, while at Talia's house, a sudden call from Rogan came in. After ignoring it initially, I gathered my courage and answered. In a frantic voice, Rogan pleaded for help, claiming he was about to be arrested. He shared his location and quickly ended the call. Talia and Ria then revealed the turn of events. They had reported the car as stolen, a move aimed at compelling Rogan to confront the consequences. Filled with gratitude, Ria blushed, and the mystery of their plan became clear. I expressed my gratitude to Talia and Ria and hurried to the park where Rogan was waiting. The specified park was surprisingly close to my home, and when we arrived, we found police officers interrogating Rogan about something. After explaining the situation to the officers and having them leave, Rogan ushered us into his car and began narrating the events that led to this. Inside the car, a confident-looking woman named Lily sat boldly in the passenger seat, staring at us with a cold gaze. Rogan questioned why the police came to him, seemingly unaware of the gravity of the situation. Raya confronted Rogan, asking why he left them behind and why he wouldn't pay back the money himself. Rogan, visibly shaken, remained silent. Ria and Talia continued questioning Rogan about his actions and his relationship with Lily. Talia criticized Rogan's irresponsible behavior, constantly changing jobs, and quick temper. Rogan bowed his head in silence, and Lily, visibly irritated, revealed shocking details. Rogan had borrowed $200,000 in his wife's name for expensive luxury gifts for Lily. Raya questioned Lily about her pregnancy, and Talia noticed an inconsistency in the timeline. Lily revealed that the child wasn't Rogan's and admitted to keeping it a secret to avoid further involvement with him. The tension increased, and Talia took charge, threatening to call the police for the criminal acts committed. Ignoring Rogan and Lily's pleas, Talia instructed me to contact the police. Legal actions were taken, and Rogan and Lily faced consequences, including compensation payments, repaying the debt, and child support. Despite attempts to reduce payments through lawyers, a secret recording made by Ria served as evidence denying their requests. In the end, Rogan and Lily didn't go to prison but had to shoulder responsibilities. Ria and I now live with Talia, and the car was safely returned. Rogan is somehow managing the debt, and the presence of Talia and Ria played a significant role in resolving the situation. Grateful for their support, I look forward to a peaceful life with the two of them, working hard for a better future. No way, that's impossible. We're living together. You just need to sign the divorce papers. Good luck with your poor life. I stood there in a daze, holding the phone after the call was abruptly cut off. The lawyer couldn't help but burst into laughter. Jessica looked at the lawyer with a puzzled expression. The lawyer was wiping tears with a handkerchief. The CEO is actually Linda. My name is Linda. I've been married to my husband Mike for 2 years. We don't have children. We both work and are so busy that we often work on weekends. We hardly have time for long conversations, leading to a life of passing each other by. Therefore, we try to match our schedules and go on overseas trips during our long breaks. It's only once a year, but we both look forward to it. When we got married, we decided to buy an upper-floor condo in a Bay Area tower. It was a stretch, but we did it considering the future value of the asset. Thanks to that, we're satisfied with our current life. I have a close friend from high school, Jessica. We sometimes go out for lunch together. Jessica, being beautiful, has high standards for men. She's not married yet but has a strong desire to do so. She's always looking for well-educated, high-income men on dating apps. Especially, she won't compromise on income. One day, I was enjoying lunch with Jessica at a cafe near a park. We were together in high school and university, even in the same classes. That's why we've consulted each other about various things. As a result, we know quite a bit about each other's dating histories and types. During our student days, we shared both fun and sad times. Those are good memories. Since I married Mike 2 years ago, we've both become busy, and the time we can meet has decreased. Now we meet only a few times a year, if that. Hey, can I come visit your condo next time? Jessica suddenly asked me. Jessica had never been to my place before. Then on the weekend, Jessica came over to my place. I could sense her amazement even through the intercom at the entrance. Jessica kept saying, "This is amazing." The moment I opened the front door, Jessica looked impressed. "Wow, this place is like a mansion, and that elevator ride up was so long." I chose a spacious upper-floor condo because it was a once-in-a-lifetime purchase without compromising. It's even more spacious than a house. It's beautiful, really incredible. Jessica looked around the house, turning her head in every direction. Great location and an upper floor in a high-rise like this must have cost a pretty fortune. Jessica asked with a sly smile. Yeah, it's what you'd call a $1 million condominium. It's got great security too. Look here. Jessica cut me off, reacting only to the term $1 million condominium. Right? It must be over $1 million. Your husband must be making a lot, she said, eyes wide with astonishment. That was so like Jessica. She's always had high standards for men, especially regarding their income. Mike's salary is quite high for his age, I guess, I said vaguely. I felt it was tacky to be too explicit. Huh. She had a look that seemed to have some ulterior motive. Jessica said, "Can I use your bathroom?" and left the living room. I told Jessica where the bathroom was and then started preparing tea in the kitchen. Concerned about Jessica, who was taking a while to return, I was about to head to the bathroom when Jessica came back. Just replying to an email. Jessica doesn't usually make excuses like that. I felt a slight sense of unease while enjoying the cookies Jessica brought as a gift and having tea. She asked, "Can I stay till evening?" She apparently wanted to greet Mike. Indeed, it had been since our wedding that Jessica last saw Mike. It's not unnatural for her to want to see him. I decided to check with Mike just in case. Mike happily agreed. I might finish work early, he replied in an email. I assured Jessica that it was okay, and then I began preparing dinner. Jessica was initially engrossed in her smartphone, but eventually stood up and headed to the bathroom again. Unaware of the prolonged absence while cooking, I noticed when Jessica returned, she was wearing a necklace that seemed oddly familiar. It was mine. Staring at the necklace, Jessica flashed an embarrassed smile. How do I look? Does it suit me? She posed like a model. Stunned, I observed as Jessica started laughing, saying, Oh, come on. I'm just kidding. I just found it and thought it was cute. It must have been super expensive, right? A premium piece for sure. She rambled like a child trying to justify her actions, labeling it a gift for Mike. Wow, he must be really wealthy to afford something like this. Jessica sighed. However, the necklace was stored in the closet in the bedroom. Jessica must have pretended to go to the bathroom and instead went to the bedroom, peeking into the closet. That's what it seemed like. I couldn't believe her actions, but I didn't want to come off as petty, so I emphasized that it was a precious item. Taking advantage of my lack of reprimand, Jessica made an outrageous request. Can I borrow this necklace for a while? I've got a date with a doctor I met on a dating app, and I want to wear it for that, please, she pleaded, joining her hands together as if praying. Reluctantly, I decided to lend it to her, emphasizing the need for careful handling, as it was a gift for Mike. As soon as Jessica knew she could borrow it, she smiled and began caressing the necklace. Of course, I understand she seemed to pay no mind to my words. When I finished the meal prep, I pretended to go to the bathroom to check the bedroom. Sure enough, the closet in the bedroom and the chest beside the bed weren't fully closed. Jessica must have opened every drawer and door she could find. There were fingerprints on the jewelry, watches, and precious metals. Jessica might have touched things, but probably didn't intend to borrow them. The shoes seemed to have been forced on, and the heels were misshapen. This was clearly going too far. Returning to the living room, I confronted Jessica. You touched various things in the bedroom, didn't you? The shoes were misshaped, and there were fingerprints on the watch. Rather than appearing remorseful, Jessica puffed out her cheeks a bit. Please don't do that again, she said. Jessica returned to her normal expression and apologized, saying sorry. Not wanting to dwell on this and risk straining our friendship, I decided to just lightly laugh it off. That's when Mike came home, holding a box of cake. Mike and Jessica saw each other for the first time since our wedding. It was awkward at first, but they gradually warmed up to each other, making for a lively dinner. By the time we ate the cake Mike brought, they were chatting like good friends. While I was clearing the dishes and washing up, they were laughing together. My boss is terrible, right? I envy Mike's subordinates. Mike was grinning, eyes crinkling with laughter. That's not true. I was a bit bothered by Jessica casually touching Mike. But at the time, I thought it was better than them being distant. After all, Mike wasn't the type of man Jessica usually goes out with. About a month after Jessica's visit, Mike's behavior started to change. He spent more time on his smartphone, which he usually didn't do much. He often seemed distracted when I talked to him and asked me to repeat myself. He always carried the phone with him, even taking it to the bathroom. It was an obvious change, and it seemed I had become a cheated-on wife. Contemplating checking Mike's phone, I hesitated to even touch it. Conversations between Mike and me at home became increasingly rare, and he started working on weekends much more. Mike was hardly ever at home on weekends, and while we barely saw each other on weekdays originally, now not seeing each other on weekends too felt like living separately within the same house. Moreover, we started sleeping in separate bedrooms under the pretext of his tiredness. Vaguely considering divorce or separation, I stumbled upon divorce papers on the living room table one day. Upon closer inspection, Mike had already signed them. Though I had suspected it, actually seeing it still shook me. With trembling hands, I called Mike, questioning him about the unexpected discovery. I just got home and saw it on the table. What does this mean exactly? I inquired, hoping for clarification. Mike's response struck me hard. It's what it looks like. I want a divorce, he declared, leaving me stunned. Pressing him for a proper reason, Mike dropped the bombshell. I've fallen in love with someone else. It's not an affair. I'm serious. With disbelief, I heard a familiar female voice on the phone, Jessica. It was what I had suspected. I'm dating Mike, and I even want to marry him, Jessica admitted nonchalantly. Hearing the confirmation made my heart race and brought on a cold sweat. Jessica's crude way of talking hinted at a side of her I hadn't seen before. Mike echoed, "There's nothing left to talk about. Can you just sign the divorce papers and send them off? I want to talk things over, so please tell Mike to come home." Stunned by the abrupt ending of the phone call, I couldn't move for a while. Sleepless nights persisted as Mike didn't come home, and I couldn't bring myself to touch the divorce papers. Jessica continued to torment me by sending multiple photos of her and Mike together, flaunting their relationship. My mental health deteriorated, and my complexion worsened. People around me became worried, urging me to seek medical help. Reluctantly, I ended up in treatment, managing to regain some peace with medication. An unbelievable incident unfolded upon my return from the hospital. Something felt off inside the room, and upon checking the bedroom, I discovered that bags and jewelry were missing. The count of jewelry watches in the chest was off too. There was only one person who could do this. Jessica. Questions swirled in my mind. Why would she do something like this? What had I ever done to her? My insomnia relapsed, and sleepless nights continued, leaving me staggering through my days. During counseling at the hospital, when I mentioned the theft at home, I was strongly advised to consult a lawyer. I promptly contacted the company's lawyer and set up an appointment, stating my clear intention. I'll get a divorce. I want those two to face proper consequences. I responded immediately, surprising even myself. Just a little while ago, I was pondering what to do, and I couldn't believe how easily those words came out of my mouth. Perhaps I really wanted to punish them after being tormented so one-sidedly. It was just about getting back at them. Now, a week later, I received a message from Jessica. I had sent her a certified letter. "Hey, what are you thinking, sending a certified letter to my workplace?" Jessica sounded pretty angry, her voice filled with rage. "You must have expected at least this much. Anyway, I'm leaving everything to my lawyer now." I hummed the phone. Jessica called several times after that, but I ignored all of them. Then Mike called. I had sent a certified letter to his parents' house. Apparently, his affair being exposed at home caused a huge uproar. I wanted to burst out laughing at his self-inflicted predicament, but managed to restrain myself. Feeling that leaving it all to the lawyer wouldn't be enough to calm my feelings, I decided to confront them both. I would denounce them thoroughly on the spot. The lawyer arranged the date and time, and we decided to have the discussion at the law office. A few days later, the two reluctantly showed up at the law office. I thought they would bring their own lawyer, but it seemed they came alone. Jessica stormed into the office, flinging the door open. Mike followed, looking uncomfortable. "Finally, we meet, you coward." Jessica made no effort to hide her anger, but Mike stepped forward, trying to calm her down. "Well, you've been running away all this time. Our wedding's been delayed because of you." Jessica looked like she might throw her bag at me any moment, and Mike was desperately trying to hold her back as I watched them with a pitiful feeling. The lawyer nodded at me. "Please calm down. If any violence or abusive language occurs, we will immediately call the police." "Understood." The mention of the police made Jessica stiffen. With the lawyer's intervention, Jessica and Mike took their seats, becoming calmer. We sat across from each other at the office table, ready to start the discussion. "Mike, you're seeking a divorce, correct?" Jessica was sitting hotly, while Mike slumped, looking small. "We'd agree to the divorce. However, since your relationship is adultery, we will ask for alimony. Is there any significance to this?" Mike's face clouded over. "I'll agree to the divorce, but once the alimony is paid, don't contact us ever." I quietly nodded in agreement, and Jessica looked displeased, maybe expecting more resistance from me. When the lawyer began discussing the alimony amount, Jessica snapped. I said, "Any amount is fine. We have plenty of money." Jessica sat arrogantly with her arms crossed. The lawyer looked at her with interest, saying, "Oh yes, didn't he research? Mike is the president of a jewelry company with a yearly revenue of $2 billion. Mike looked up frantically, trying to restrain Jessica's arm. Jessica, her face flushed, continued excitedly. Alimony for an affair is nothing to us. I'll even give a proper share of the property. Mike was trying hard to calm her down. Jessica shook off his hand and continued, You can barely make ends meet on your salary, right? She scoffed with a laugh. The lawyer burst into uncontrollable laughter. Jessica looked at him with a puzzled expression, and the lawyer wiped tears with a handkerchief. Actually, the president is Linda. Jessica was dumbstruck, her mouth hanging open. Mike hung his head, his body trembling slightly. Mike is just an ordinary employee with no position at Linda's company. I am Linda's corporate lawyer. Jessica started laughing loudly. What are you talking about? Are you really a lawyer? Can lawyers lie? The lawyer calmly replied, Why not ask Mike next to you if what I said is a lie? Mike, meanwhile, just bit his lip, looking down. Growing more anxious, Jessica grabbed Mike's arms and began shaking him. You said you were the president of a $2 billion jewelry company. That's not a lie, right? Mike remained silent, covering his face with his hands, uttering inaudible moans. Growing more desperate, Jessica gripped his arms tighter, repeatedly asking, Answer me. It's not a lie, right? Finally, Mike whispered in a raspy voice. I'm sorry. Mike's single apology plunged the room into a deep silence. Jessica's strength seemed to leave her body, and she let her hands that were gripping Mike fall limply. You said you were the president of a company making $2 billion a year, she muttered, almost to herself. Mike's solitary apology had plunged Jessica into despair. She stood up, trembling. It's a lie, right? There's no way you're the president. Jessica pointed at me accusingly. Why didn't I know about this after all we've shared? I spoke to Jessica calmly, as if guiding her. Just because we're close friends doesn't mean I tell you everything, especially since you were so fixated on money. I had no intention of telling you, I said, looking Jessica straight in the eyes without averting my gaze. Jessica seemed to lose all her energy and slumped down. Then that house, of course. The house is in my name, so Mike will be the one leaving. Jessica fell silent, and Mike continued to hold his head. Mike probably didn't want to come here. He knew this would happen. But if he didn't come here, things would be worse. It's hell either way for him now. Mike is left with nothing but hell waiting for him. The lawyer began to present the evidence I had gathered. First, the photos of Mike and Jessica together, the photos sent to my phone, now printed. The lawyer placed an IC recorder on the table and played the recorded conversation. Why would you send something like this? I just wanted to share our happiness with you. Jessica's voice filled the room, while Mike seemed to be holding back tears. Hey, still clinging to the past. I want to divorce quickly. I know what you're clinging to. It's Mike's income. He's the president of a $2 billion jewelry company, right? You hid it because you thought I might take it? Jessica, perhaps embarrassed, covered her face with her hands. Hurry up a divorce and leave that condo. It'll be mine soon. Too bad Mike didn't come back to you. I'll give you as much alimony as you want. Poor thing, your aim was the money, not Mike. I'm speechless at how you've been deceived. Mike and Jessica fell silent. Do you think this is over? What else is there, Jessica? You broke into the house when Linda wasn't there and stole several items, didn't you? I felt relieved at the lawyer's calm demeanor. Mike looked shocked, apparently unaware of this. Hey, what's this about stealing? Jessica bit her lower lip, her hands shaking. No, not me. I don't know anything. The lawyer placed a tablet on the table and played a video. It showed Jessica sneaking into the bedroom, taking bags and jewelry, and stuffing them into her bag. Jessica stared wide-eyed at the footage. What is this? Why are you recording me? Isn't this illegal surveillance? Mike covered his face with his hands. We always had security cameras inside our house. Why didn't you tell me that earlier? Who would think you'd break in to steal? I felt a headache coming on from their foolish exchange, and you used my key without permission. I wanted those things. It's your fault for not buying them for me. The two began arguing, ignoring us. The lawyer and I could only look on in disbelief. Please save your arguments for later. Regarding this theft, we will be filing a police report, the lawyer said calmly. Jessica seemed to panic at the mention of the police. That's a bit much, isn't it? I just borrowed something from a friend. I never gave you permission to borrow anything. I spoke to her calmly. Besides, you're not a friend or anything. You were just a classmate. That's why I'm filing a police report. Jessica started to kneel and apologize. I looked down at her and said coldly, "You're going to compensate. The value of what you stole is more than your annual income." "Are you sure about that?" Jessica was speechless. "And there's also the matter of the alimony." Jessica turned to Mike, pleading in a tearful voice, "You'll pay, right? Even if you're not the president, you still earn well, right?" Mike was silent, looking down. "He can't pay it because he's about to be fired," I said. Mike looked up in surprise. "That's correct. Since leaving the house, Mike has not shown up for work. Plus, with this commotion, there have been complaints from his boss," I explained. Mike looked like he might collapse on the floor. "But there's still the property division, right?" "I'll pay with that," Jessica said desperately. "That's not possible. Linda and Mike have a prenuptial agreement regarding property." "You didn't hear anything from Mike, did you?" "He never told you the inconvenient truths," I replied calmly. I regarded Mike with disdain as the lawyer placed the contract on the table. The agreement explicitly stated that if the marriage lasted less than 3 years, neither party could claim the other's property. Given that they were currently in the 2nd year of marriage, Jessica attempted to grab the document as if to tear it up. "You should handle that document carefully. It's a notarized deed, and you could be held legally accountable for damaging it," I warned. At the mention of potential legal consequences, Jessica halted her attempt to destroy the document and began to half-heartedly plead with Mike. "Mike, you have savings, right? Use that to pay," she suggested. Mike, looking at Jessica with resentful eyes, retorted, "What money? You always wanted sushi, steak. There's no way I have any savings left." "It appears that way. And it seems he has debts from unsavory sources," I added. Jessica's shoulders slumped, revealing the pitiable sight of the once glamorous appearance that used to turn heads. This was the result of the seeds she had sowed herself, leaving the two looking haggard and lost, muttering about how this wasn't supposed to happen and what they would do now. Deciding to leave the rest to the lawyer, I stood up to leave, emphasizing to Jessica, "Money isn't something you steal from others. It's something you earn through effort." After that, the divorce proceeded smoothly. I sent all of Mike's belongings back to his parents, who kept apologizing to me and even sent a letter of apology. Jessica, on the other hand, faced police interrogation for illegal entry and theft, leading to her arrest after admitting guilt. Although she showed remorse and an intent to compensate, her other crimes, including stealing from men she met on a dating app, suggested she might face a prison sentence. Mike, unable to live in Jessica's apartment, moved to an old apartment on the outskirts of town. Despite looking for a job, his unexplained absences and poor attitude at his last job made it challenging to get hired. He resorted to day labor to get by, receiving regular updates on their situations from the lawyer. I threw myself into work after the divorce. Currently, I am expanding our company's jewelry line to Europe, an idea that emerged during a break I took after the divorce. During that time, I had the chance to connect with the owner of a jewelry store in France. We bonded over shared experiences of divorce, and he agreed to showcase my company's jewelry in his store. Focusing on sales in France, I considered it a well-deserved perk after all I had been through. I go by the name Alice, leading a seemingly ordinary life as a housewife. My husband John is an exceptionally kind partner, and our relationship has been free of any disagreements. It's not to boast, but he truly is the ideal companion. Currently residing in an apartment close to John's parents' house, this decision was intentional. With both my parents no longer with us, we wanted to be nearby in case of the birth of our child or any unforeseen issues. Additionally, considering the potential future care needs of John's parents, I saw the practicality of our living arrangement. However, a strange occurrence started to unfold during our dinner gatherings with John's parents. Mysterious stomach pains plagued me, leading me to initially avoid meals at John's house. Unfortunately, circumstances forced me to attend, and that's when an unexpected event transpired, revealing a shocking revelation about my mother-in-law's actions, shedding light on the source of my inexplicable pain. Before these unsettling events, John and I had opted out of a traditional wedding ceremony. I wasn't keen on being the center of attention, and we believed redirecting funds towards travel and hobbies made more sense than a lavish ceremony. Nevertheless, my mother-in-law, who conducted free cooking classes as a hobby, proposed a dinner party to celebrate our marriage. Excited to showcase her culinary skills, she warmly welcomed John but exhibited a noticeable coldness toward me. Despite the confusion, the dinner party proceeded with a variety of exquisite dishes prepared by her, momentarily overshadowing the earlier sense of unwelcome. Expressing gratitude for the delightful meals, I thought the initial discomfort might have been a misunderstanding. However, that night, severe stomach pain struck suddenly, leading to a rushed visit to the emergency room. Despite inconclusive diagnosis due to the absence of a specialist, my condition stabilized after receiving IV treatment for 2 hours. The cause of my distress, possibly linked to expired bread consumed earlier, remained a mystery. After returning home with John, I found myself grappling with unexplained stomach pain every time I dined at my in-laws' place following a particular incident. Seeking advice, I discussed this issue over lunch with a long-lost friend. She suggested, "Could it be that simply visiting your husband's house is causing you stress?" Surprisingly, she had experienced a similar situation, falling ill due to harassment from her mother-in-law. After relocating to a new apartment further away, her health improved significantly. Although I hadn't initially considered visits to my in-laws as a source of stress, my friend's advice made me ponder if there was an underlying unease in my heart. Concerned about my recurring illnesses, my husband, who had initially brushed off the matter, began to take it seriously. Consequently, he suggested that we temporarily halt our visits to my in-laws. While the exact cause remained elusive, my husband suspected his mother's cooking, given my consistent bouts of illness after meals there. According to him, his mother often expressed loneliness and a desire for shared meals, but he had declined due to his worry for my health. Despite our decision to refrain from visiting, a new challenge emerged. My brother-in-law was scheduled to visit our parents for his wedding greetings, and a family dinner was arranged. Reluctantly, my husband explained, "I can't decline this time, as my brother is going to our parents' place. We're expected to participate in the dinner meeting with the entire family." Despite my inclination to avoid a direct encounter with my mother-in-law, I couldn't neglect the familial obligation tied to my brother-in-law and his wife. Deciding to participate in the family dinner, little did anyone anticipate the ensuing commotion it would cause. Despite my husband's concern for my health, he advised me, "Alice, you don't have to eat the meals today." As we arrived at the dinner meeting, my mother-in-law greeted us with her usual warm smile, particularly directed at my husband. However, I couldn't help but sense an even colder attitude towards me compared to before. Upon entering the room, my brother-in-law and his wife were engaged in a pleasant conversation with my father-in-law. My mother-in-law's homemade dishes were beautifully presented on the table, emitting an enticing aroma that stirred my appetite. The mystery persisted. Why did I fall ill after consuming these seemingly delicious meals? No matter how I pondered, the reason eluded me. Seated at the table, my mother-in-law promptly urged me to start eating. Swiftly, my husband intervened, stating that I wasn't feeling well. However, she seemed to dismiss my condition as a minor issue, offering me a dish with a wordless smile, almost challenging me to eat. Feeling at a loss for words, my brother-in-law came to my defense, expressing gratitude for my presence despite my illness. He suggested it was sufficient to exchange greetings and encouraged me to go home and rest if needed. Informed in advance by my husband, he and his wife stood by my side. Ignoring their son's words, my mother-in-law insisted on packaging the dish in a Tupperware for me to try later. Wondering why she was so insistent on my eating, I nodded to avoid upsetting her. As she went to the kitchen to fetch the Tupperware, a loud clatter interrupted the scene. All eyes turned to my father-in-law, who was clutching his stomach in pain despite not having started his meal. In a panic, my mother-in-law asked what happened, and he, in agony, replied, "My stomach hurts so much I can't bear it." The cause of his suffering remained unclear, adding another layer of tension to the already tumultuous dinner. I had only taken a few nibbles from the kitchen before the gathering, and suddenly my father-in-law collapsed weakly. Disbelief struck me as my mother-in-law, panicked, exclaimed, "You must be joking. That was something I made to feed Alice." "Wait, this is not the time to think about that. Call an ambulance." Without hesitation, she dialed for an ambulance and rushed to the hospital with my father-in-law. We all stood frozen, staring, processing the unexpected turn of events. However, her earlier words lingered in my mind, the revelation that what my father-in-law had snacked on was intended for me. It implied there might be something wrong with that particular dish. Driven by concern, I headed to the kitchen, a place my mother-in-law had always kept me away from. There, I discovered something that left me in shock, finally understanding why I would fall ill and why my father-in-law had collapsed. The realization that she would do something like this struck me as utterly absurd. Reeling from the revelation, I knew I had to decide how to handle this betrayal. Forgiveness wasn't an option. Revenge became a necessity. Each of us drove to the hospital where my father-in-law was taken. After checking in at the reception, we headed straight for the patient room. Inside, we could hear two voices, one unmistakably my mother-in-law's, and the other likely a male doctor. She was being questioned about what had happened. "I'm telling you, I don't know anything. He just suddenly collapsed while we were all enjoying the meals," my mother-in-law insisted. The doctor probed further, asking if he had consumed anything rotten or expired. Evading the questions, my mother-in-law continued to deny any knowledge. Summoning courage, I took a deep breath and knocked on the hospital room door. Flustered, my mother-in-law greeted us. "Oh, Alice and John, you're here too. Your father is okay. Please go home and enjoy dinner with the four of you." However, her somewhat flustered manner and attempt to close the door heightened my suspicions. I seized the moment and asserted, "No, I'd like to talk to you for a bit." Behind me, my husband silently projected his presence, while my brother-in-law and his wife sent sharp, cold glances. Faced with this collective insistence, my mother-in-law couldn't refuse and reluctantly said, "Okay." Allowing us into the room, my father-in-law's facial color appeared to be returning, showing signs of stability. However, the exact cause remained undetermined. Though he was still conscious when brought to the hospital, he had been frequently using the bathroom. The doctor explained that he eventually lost consciousness due to dehydration. Attempting to offer an excuse, my mother-in-law forced a smile, saying, "Well, your father is getting old, and he drinks beer every day." Her attempt at justification seemed feeble, and realizing that neither the doctor nor we were convinced, she fell silent, closing her mouth. I looked at my mother-in-law with a stern gaze, took evidence out of my bag, and presented it to her. As she observed the contents, her eyes widened, and she broke into a cold sweat, visibly confused. "Mother-in-law, isn't this a laxative? I found some powdered laxatives in the kitchen. What's this about?" I inquired calmly, but she remained silent. The doctor, examining the laxatives, seemed to understand. "Oh, that would make sense if he had diarrhea without being food poisoned. Generally, intake of laxatives is a possibility," he explained. Subsequent detailed examinations revealed that my father-in-law had indeed ingested a significant amount of laxatives. The final diagnosis pointed to the laxatives making his intestines hyperactive, causing repeated abdominal pain, diarrhea, and ultimately dehydration. Cornered and unable to make excuses any longer, my mother-in-law hesitated before finally saying, "Wait." At first, I only expected Alice to get a little sick. But because Alice was fine, I gradually increased the amount of laxatives. The confession laid bare the motive for her actions, a sense of loss over her perceived detachment of her beloved eldest son from her. Starting with a small amount of laxatives out of spite, she admitted to progressively escalating the dosage, ultimately reaching a point where it caused a person to collapse. My surprise was impossible to conceal as I confronted my mother-in-law, stating, "What you've done is just crazy. You may not know this, but I've been to the hospital multiple times for IVs due to unexplained symptoms. Despite this, I can't understand why you would attempt to mix in such a huge amount of laxatives." Unable to find room for argument after having her mistake pointed out, my mother-in-law hung her head in frustration. A series of criticisms followed from her sons. "Mom, no matter the circumstances, this can't be forgiven. It just so happens that Alice didn't respond that sensitively to the laxatives. But what you've done is the same as a crime," my husband exclaimed. His words were echoed by my brother-in-law, who expressed, "I thought it was unthinkable, but were you trying to do the same thing to my wife? Thinking about it that way is really scary." He pulled his wife closer, throwing a stern gaze at his mother. The doctor intervened, emphasizing, "Medication should be used in the proper amounts and methods, as your son said. Luckily, your daughter-in-law's symptoms were mild, but your husband had no resistance to laxatives, thus resulting in this severe reaction." Unable to bear the criticism, my mother-in-law, despite her age, began to cry like a small child. From the bed, a voice was heard, my father-in-law, who had regained consciousness. He exclaimed, "How could you do such a terrible thing?" Crying, my mother-in-law grasped his hand, apologizing. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you." However, he forcefully shook off her hand. Frozen in place, shocked by the unfolding events, my mother-in-law witnessed my father-in-law letting out a deep sigh. He continued, "Even if you didn't intend to hurt me, it's a fact that you've caused Alice to suffer a lot. That's not right. It's a shameful act as a human being." In response to his words, my mother-in-law begged for forgiveness, clinging to him. She turned to me, apologizing for her actions and pledging never to repeat such behavior. Seeking my forgiveness, she expressed hope that my husband and the boys would also be convinced. Witnessing this emotional scene, I found myself torn between the desire for retribution and the possibility of forgiveness. I cynically thought it must be a performance, and she wasn't genuinely remorseful about what she had done to me, so I smirked. "Ah, what are you talking about? I'm not even considering forgiving you now after all I've been through," I asserted. In solidarity, my husband stood beside me and added, "Mother, stay away from Alice. I can no longer think of someone who hurt my beloved wife as family." The declaration stunned my mother-in-law, causing her to collapse to her knees, rejected as family by her own son. Observing the scene, my brother-in-law nodded and stated firmly, "I can't imagine living with someone who could potentially harm my wife. I have no intention of you being my family anymore." His words echoed a unanimous sentiment against her. As my mother-in-law continued to beg for forgiveness, broken down in tears, no one uttered a word. Everyone simply looked down at her, realizing that her selfish jealousy had caused this situation. Desperate for support, she turned to my father-in-law, seemingly forgetting he had already rejected her. Sobbing, she implored, "What about you? You won't abandon me, your wife, will you?" However, my father-in-law retorted, "What of it? I can't stay with someone who commits such inhumane acts anymore. I want a divorce." Crushed by his words, my mother-in-law was left devastated. Agreeing with my husband's suggestion to let my father-in-law rest, we bid farewell to him and exited the hospital room. While waiting for my husband to retrieve the car at the entrance, my mother-in-law, panting, suddenly ran towards us. "Begging you, Alice, please forgive me," she pleaded. Looking at her tear-streaked and snotty face, I responded, I have no reason to risk my life to be with you, mother-in-law. If I forgive you now, I don't think it will truly be for your benefit. I responded coldly to my mother-in-law, and just as I finished speaking, my husband arrived in the car. We got in, and through the window, I told my mother-in-law, "This is goodbye. We will likely never meet again. Take care." Her response to my cold words was silence. She watched us leave, her hand brushing against her sleeve, murmuring something as if in prayer while looking up at the sky. True to my father-in-law's declaration, he divorced and moved out. In the aftermath, my husband and brother-in-law severed ties with their mother. Previously, my father-in-law had been the leaseholder and paid the rent for the apartment. However, since he left after the divorce, I had to start paying the rent myself. My mother-in-law, having been a housewife all her life, struggled to figure out how to earn a living. Despite trying to make ends meet with the money she received from the property division in the divorce, it quickly ran out. Attempts to charge for her cooking classes and outreach for various work opportunities failed, with the news of the incident spreading and leaving her with no students. Consequently, she couldn't pay the rent, was evicted from her home, and only then did she grasp the harshness of reality. Now homeless, my mother-in-law began looking for work, facing the difficulties of life without a place to live. This, as people say, is karma. Shortly after being released from my unexplained illness, I found out that I was pregnant. My husband and father-in-law, despite the divorce, remained in contact. Upon hearing about my pregnancy, my father-in-law was overjoyed, even more so than we were. He had already prepared a stroller and car seat for us, a gesture that truly felt like a blessing. Discovering a playful side to my previously silent father-in-law, I am filled with joy as a family member. What's more, my brother-in-law and his wife had twins, unexpectedly expanding our family. Our lives became more lively, and I am genuinely looking forward to our new life with our new family members and the fresh days ahead. You'll be fine going to the hospital alone, right? I swear I'll send you straight to hell. My name is Lisa, and I'm currently 9 months pregnant. It's my first time giving birth, so while I'm filled with anxiety, I feel truly blessed about welcoming a new member into our family. My husband, David, is a white-collar worker and has weekends off. However, he doesn't offer much support around the house or help with shopping. This is because he usually goes back to his parents' home on weekends. David has a deep bond with his in-laws, and since their home is nearby, he spends almost every weekend there without any specific reason. Since becoming pregnant, I've been cautious about lifting heavy objects. For instance, when buying heavy items like rice, understanding friends often help out. My daily routine starts by waking up early, preparing breakfast for David, and seeing him off to work. Afterward, I do the cleaning and laundry, and then head out for any necessary shopping. Once I return home, I start prepping for dinner. Only after finishing these tasks can I finally have some relaxation time. Since taking maternity leave, I've taken up a new hobby, blogging. Every day, I write a diary accompanied by photos I take, such as meals, the blue sky, flowers blooming in the garden, and more. Many friends and acquaintances leave comments, and these moments of journaling have become small daily joys for me. One evening, as I was preparing dinner, my husband returned home as usual. He carelessly placed his bag and jacket on the sofa, and I tidied them up, hanging them on a coat hanger. "Welcome back. I made hamburgers for dinner. I'm going to take a bath," I said. Responding curtly, he headed straight for the bathroom. 3 years have passed since we got married, and there has been little kindness or consideration from him. I occasionally wonder if this is truly what a marital relationship should be like. But I've resigned myself to it. When David returned in his pajamas, I handed him a drink. "Where's the beer?" he asked, glancing at the bar. I hinted, "Sorry, I forgot to buy it today. I'll get some tomorrow." "Seriously? Go to the convenience store now." His demeanor changed immediately, and he spoke with evident anger. I was irritated. Why was he asking his pregnant wife to do this? If you want it so badly, why don't you go get it yourself? It's hard for me to move around with this big belly. At that moment, he became even angrier and started shouting. You're the one who forgot to buy it. It's your job to fix that mistake. Just because you're pregnant doesn't mean you get special treatment. My mother always said it's important to keep moving for the sake of health. Knowing that he doesn't calm down easily when he's angry, I reluctantly decided to go to the convenience store. Once I arrived, I bumped into Sarah, a neighbor. Oh, Sarah, good evening. Good evening, Lisa. Did you forget to buy something too? I ran out of sauce so I came here. Sarah's cheerful voice slightly lifted my spirits. My husband really wanted beer, and he told me to buy it. Why didn't he just go himself? That's what I said, but it didn't get through to him. It sounds like you're having a tough time, Lisa. After walking together for a bit, Sarah and I parted ways at a crossroad. When I returned home, David was lounging on the sofa, watching TV, having not even cleaned up after dinner. Why did it take you so long? What were you dawdling around for? Give me the beer. David's disgruntled voice and his insensitive remarks made my heart ache. However, I handed him the beer without a word and began cleaning up after the meal. How could he say such things to me, especially when I'm pregnant? I felt the urge to retort, but I didn't want another shouting match, so I remained silent. Afterward, I had my dinner, took a relaxing bath, and headed to the bedroom. The next morning, David acted as if nothing had happened. It seems he's the type to forget everything after a good night's sleep. However, I couldn't forget his words from the previous night, and I consciously ignored him. Why are you making that face so early in the morning? Don't take it out on me. I'm heading to work now, so be a bit considerate. You know the importance of appreciation, right? Due to what he said, I was filled with the urge to retort. That applies to you, doesn't it? But out of shock and disbelief, all I could do was sigh deeply and see him off. Be careful, right? I won't eat dinner tonight. See you. Without any explanation, David left in a hurry. After seeing him off, I took care of household chores and went shopping as usual. However, since David mentioned he wouldn't be having dinner, I decided to prepare something simple just for myself. Then, as I was about to start my meal alone in the evening, I heard David's unexpected return and rushed to the entrance. I'm back. Thanks for your hard work, but you said you didn't need dinner today, right? Yeah, but my drinking party got canceled. I'm hungry. You have something to eat, right? Well, I only prepared a meal for myself today. Upon hearing this, David's face contorted with anger. Didn't you even consider the possibility I might come back? This is unbelievable. Saying that, he moved to the dining table, and upon seeing the dinner I prepared, his mood worsened. What do you call this a meal? I seriously question if you're properly doing your duties as a housewife. Don't waste the money I'm working for. I quickly prepared something for myself. Please don't get mad like this. Maybe you should learn proper cooking from my mom. Honestly, I've always found your cooking lacking. Again, he always compares me to his mother. Doesn't he realize how hurtful these comparisons can be? I can't eat this. Go buy something. Hearing this, my heart sank further. What does he think of me? It's already night, and I've taken a bath. Can't you go buy it yourself? Forget it. You forgot to buy beer yesterday, didn't prepare dinner today. It's so frustrating. I'm going back to my parents' place. David stormed out and left alone in the house. I strangely felt a sense of relief. The next morning, as I expected, I received an angry call from David's mother. How can you not serve David a proper meal? This feels like moral harassment, if not worse. I explained what happened yesterday, but she wasn't accepting it. So I apologized and ended the call. After the call, my mood plummeted. Since David wasn't home, I decided to have a leisurely late brunch. However, the thought of David coming back tonight weighed on my mind. Considering yesterday's events, I decided to make tonight's dinner special. I shopped with more care than usual, picking out ingredients and adding David's favorite beer to the cart. I was determined to prepare a dinner that would earn David's praise. I shortened my blog update time a bit to allocate more time to cooking. After dedicating ample time to preparations, the table was set beautifully, as if it was a special occasion. Looking at it, I felt a sense of accomplishment and couldn't help but praise myself. With this, he should definitely be satisfied. I waited patiently in the dining room for David to come home, but as time passed, there was no sign of him. I tried contacting him several times via my smartphone, but there was no response, and I became more worried as the clock continued to tick. 1 hour, then 2 hours passed, and I began to get anxious. Did he possibly go to his parents' house? Thinking this, I called David's parents to check, but they said he hadn't come there either. I tried calling David multiple times, but still, there was no response. As midnight approached, just when I was considering contacting the police, a staggering David returned home. He seemed clearly drunk. "I'm home, hiccup." I rushed to the entrance in concern and found David lying on the hallway floor. "What happened? Are you okay?" Hearing my voice, he responded angrily, "Too loud, go away." He then staggered towards the dining room. When I tried to support him, he forcefully shook off my hand. "Don't touch me. Don't come near me with that ugly face. To think you're my wife." In his drunken state, he spat out those words and then just lay down right there. Those words were beyond shocking. Why? Why can't he consider others' feelings? His remarks hurt me deeply, and I was filled with thoughts of maybe he no longer sees me as family. Tears welled up in my eyes. I put so much effort into cooking, it was all for nothing. With that thought, I had my dinner alone and enveloped in loneliness. The next morning, David woke up as if nothing had happened. "My head hurts. I guess I drank too much." "But why did you leave me in the hallway?" "You chose to lie down there, David. It's not my fault." "Aren't you my wife? At least take care of me when I'm drunk." David's words made me wonder why he always blames me right away. "If you weren't going to eat at home, you could have at least let me know. I had prepared a nice meal, and I called you multiple times. Why didn't you answer?" Then David replied nonchalantly, "My drinking party from the day before got rescheduled to yesterday. Do I have to report everything? Besides, you know how hard it is to pick up the phone during a gathering. Think about my situation." With every word David said, my heart got colder and my expectations of him diminished. That way, I won't feel hurt or disappointed anymore. This thought lingered in my mind that I'm taking a break and going back to my parents' home tomorrow. Being with you lately feels unpleasant and boring. Seeing David's attitude of looking down on me made me increasingly consider the option of divorce. Our baby is due soon, and my heart races in anticipation. Even though I've heard stories about the pains of labor from friends, my excitement to meet the new life inside me overshadows those concerns. The neighbors often encourage me with words like, "It's just a little while longer," which brightens my mood. "Hey, want to go on a family trip soon after David returned home?" He made a surprising suggestion. "Really? But I'm talking about a family trip. My mom and dad want to join." I was taken aback. Why would parents make such a proposal? Tensions exist between me and David's parents whenever there's an issue concerning David. They tend to blame me, like the previous phone call incident. However, the sudden idea of a trip left me doubtful. I'm about to give birth soon, and traveling a long distance might be a bit risky. David replied, "How many times do I have to tell you? Just because you're pregnant doesn't mean you're sick. My parents are thoughtfully inviting us. But what if something happens? It'll be fine. Everything's already decided. We'll go for 2 nights and 3 days next week." "What? Next week is my due date. That's a bit. Just do as you're told. Prepare for the trip." End of discussion. David just expressed his opinion and then left the room. I'm in trouble now, I thought to myself. The next day, I sought advice from a close friend and explained the situation. She was concerned and said, "That's a bit too much." While I was contemplating how to decline the offer, the day of the trip suddenly arrived. "Actually, I'm not feeling well today. I'm worried about the baby, so I'm going to rest at home." I tried to use that as an excuse, but David didn't seem convinced. "Anyway, you can just rest in the car, and you'll be fine, right? Come on, bring the luggage." We're heading to my parents' house, so hurry up. As we headed to the car, I was worried and asked, "Is this really okay?" After loading our luggage into the car and sitting in the passenger seat, I felt warmth at my feet. Looking down, I noticed water spreading around them. Oh my water broke. I immediately informed David. "David, I think my water just broke. Please take me to the hospital quickly." Taken aback by the situation, David exclaimed, "Are you serious?" "Yes, I'm serious. We need to go to the hospital now. The baby might be coming." While trying to clean up the water with a towel in the car, David suddenly opened the passenger door. "David, what are you doing? We need to go to the hospital. Get out, you're going to make a mess in the car." I was in complete shock. "What are you saying?" I said, "Get out. I need to clean the car." Then David forcefully pulled me out of the car. In this unbelievable situation, David said, "I can't believe this. We were supposed to be on a family trip. Just go to the hospital by yourself." I was too shocked to say anything as I called out to David, "Wait, how can you leave me here like this?" He drove away, leaving me behind. Feeling overwhelmed, I quickly dialed for an ambulance. When someone approached, asking, "Lisa, are you okay?" It was Sarah, looking concerned. Sarah immediately recognized my predicament and arranged for a special taxi, comforting me throughout. Grateful for her kindness, tears streamed down my face. Soon after, I safely arrived at the hospital, thanks to Sarah's help. On the way, she held my hand and cheered me up, staying by my side until I was taken to my room. While being transferred, I made a silent vow. I will make him pay for this. Even as labor pains grew, Sarah kept holding my hand. Furthermore, she contacted my parents, who soon arrived at the hospital and looked deeply concerned. Sarah whispered to them, "There's something I want to discuss." The three then left the room. As the labor pains intensified, my smartphone vibrated from a corner of the room. "Who is it?" I asked, and my parents responded with David's name. They looked displeased, but I took the call anyway. As soon as I answered, I heard a panicky David, "Help me." However, I was in no state or mood to converse with him and promptly ended the call. Despite my parents turning off my phone, David continued to send messages. As labor intensified, I was finally moved to the delivery room. After enduring the pain for some time, I finally heard my baby's cries. Exhausted, I saw my parents and Sarah standing before me with warm smiles. Relieved, I closed my eyes and rested. When I woke up after a few hours of sleep, I found myself lying in the hospital bed. Rubbing my eyes, I noticed my parents sitting next to me, their faces filled with concern. "Are you okay?" My mother asked gently, still feeling the weight of exhaustion. I couldn't muster the energy to sit up, while my father looked teary-eyed. My mother consoled him, saying, "The postpartum period can be exhausting." Witnessing this heartwarming scene, a smile formed on my face. "How's the baby?" I inquired. My parents informed me that the baby was undergoing some tests but would be back in the room soon. However, I noticed Sarah wasn't present. Responding to my unspoken question, my mother remarked, "Sarah left a little while ago." Thinking about how things might have turned out had Sarah not been there, a feeling of gratitude settled over me. I made a promise with my parents that after being discharged, I would visit Sarah to express my gratitude. Turning on my smartphone to inform my friends about the birth, I was met with an overwhelming number of missed calls, mostly from David. The sheer number left me momentarily stunned, but I felt no hope or expectation from his calls. So I closed the notifications without hesitation. One of my friends visited the hospital room to congratulate me on the birth. As she rejoiced and extended her genuine wishes, I opened up about the recent incidents with David. After hearing the story, she expressed both shock and anger, half-jokingly saying she'd like to punish him a bit. But she also emphasized that my health and rest were paramount, chatted with me for a while, and then left. My parents, already briefed by Sarah about the whole episode, asked, "What are you planning to do next?" I shared my thoughts about my relationship with David and told my parents I'm considering divorce. They respected my decision and provided their support. Upon my discharge, I planned to stay at my parents' house, where they had prepared a room for me. Meanwhile, David seemed to have visited the hospital, but as I had informed the hospital staff that I didn't wish to see him, he wasn't allowed in. The next day, Sarah came to my hospital room holding a fruit basket. "Sarah, you came!" I exclaimed with delight. "You seem to be recovering well, but remember not to overexert yourself. Postpartum fatigue can be quite profound," she advised. Feeling comforted by Sarah's words, I sighed with relief, taking the fruit basket from her. "Sarah, thank you so much for helping me. I don't know what would have happened if you weren't there." I expressed my deep gratitude as I bowed deeply. Sarah gently laughed, saying, "What's most important is that both you and the baby are healthy. I just want a small hand. Regardless, I'm forever grateful. Once things settle down, I'll come over to thank you properly." Sarah laughed warmly in response. "You know, I've talked to my husband about what happened. He seemed quite furious." From her words, I could somewhat deduce David's situation. "Sarah, I'm truly sorry for dragging you into this mess," I admitted. "Don't worry. Remember who you owe for being able to work at your current company. This incident is truly hard to forgive." At that moment, I heard a stern tone in Sarah's voice for the first time. Sarah was actually the wife of the CEO at the company where my husband worked. When we first moved to this residential area, I had no idea about this fact. However, as we frequently encountered each other at the local supermarket, shops, and occasionally at convenience stores, we gradually became closer. We even began to enjoy tea together, and during these sessions, I learned about the nature of her husband's job. On the other hand, my husband was completely unaware of this background. This was because he didn't even accompany me for our initial neighborhood greetings and didn't prefer interacting with our neighbors. Sarah had previously told me gently, "I don't want to cause any trouble, so don't tell your husband," and I had respected that request. Knowing that I was pregnant and still being forced to endure my husband's unreasonable behavior, Sarah had several times suggested, "Should I talk to my husband about this?" However, I had always declined, not wanting to trouble her. But with this recent incident, perhaps even Sarah reached her limit. That's why my husband kept calling Sarah. "I really can't thank you enough for everything." Sarah's strong words made me realize how fortunate I was to have someone who'd go to such lengths for me. I couldn't help but tear up. Seeing my reaction, Sarah once again gave me a warm smile. "Lisa, you're a dear friend to me. I can't just stand by and watch when something like this happens to a friend." Our conversation was filled with heartfelt smiles. However, my husband's messages didn't stop despite the barrage of notifications. Online, I consciously ignored them all. Thinking about the divorce made my mind clear, and all I wanted was to think about how to live my life with my baby. As I was preparing to leave the hospital, a close friend visited my room, handing me her smartphone and saying, "I want you to see this." Displayed on her phone was a post that had become a major topic on a certain social media platform. When I asked what it was about, she informed me that she had posted about my husband's recent actions on social media. My friend had a significant influence on social media with a massive follower count. One day, she received a reply to one of her posts. The follower who replied had, by chance, captured a video of the scene where I was yelled at by my husband after being led out of the car. The follower, wanting to protect my privacy, blurred my face in the video and, with my friend's permission, shared it online. The video spread like wildfire, and as a result, personal details about my husband and even his company were identified. Currently, my husband seems to be under a barrage of criticism online. What? I had no idea it had escalated to this level. My friend, smiling gently, remarked, "Well, they brought it upon themselves, didn't they? My husband's actions and their consequences were all a result of choices he made." Furthermore, when one of my husband's friends confronted him about the incident, he reportedly excused himself, saying, "I had a prior travel commitment with my parents that day, so I had no choice." Because of this statement, Not only my husband, but also his parents began to face criticism online. The story spread even in the vicinity of my in-laws' home, and there seemed to be various topics related to my husband's parents circulating on social media. Suddenly, my phone started ringing. When I checked the screen, it was a call from my mother-in-law. That's for my mother-in-law. My friend, eyeing the screen of my phone with interest, suggested, "Why don't you pick up and give her a piece of your mind?" However, I was so fed up that I felt no words to do so and decided to ignore it. Before I knew it, the missed calls log was filled with names of my husband, father-in-law, and mother-in-law. Ever since the incident was highlighted on social media, even the hospital staff seemed to be aware of my situation and started offering genuine support. Whether my husband or in-laws came to the hospital or called multiple times, the hospital staff didn't allow any contact with me. As my discharge date approached, I had one pressing worry: whether my husband and in-laws might be lurking outside the hospital. My parents reassured me, saying, "You have nothing to worry about." But the thought of my precious baby being in danger left me anxious. However, that concern was quickly dispelled on the day of my discharge, as my parents were helping me with my belongings. I heard my husband's voice shouting, "Lisa," followed by the loud voices of my in-laws. Suddenly, men in black suits surrounded me, forming a protective barrier. As I tried to understand what was happening, one of the men approached me, gently opening the car door and said, "Don't worry, we're here on Sir's request to protect you." It seemed my parents were already aware of this, as my mom said, smiling, "Didn't I tell you there's nothing to worry about?" Believing her words, I felt relieved and smoothly got into the car. All the while, my husband and in-laws, overwhelmed by the presence of the bodyguards, couldn't come any closer. I can't find the words to express how grateful I am for Sarah supporting me like this. The only thing occupying my mind was how to reciprocate Sarah's kindness. My parents felt the same, saying in unison, "We have to find a way to show our gratitude to Sarah." Although my new life began smoothly and pleasant days continued, the contacts from my husband and in-laws never ceased. I mailed them the divorce papers, but there wasn't even a hint of acceptance. One day, my in-laws called our home. It seems my father answered, and they addressed him with the attitude of, "She became a part of our family, so no matter how she's treated, she shouldn't complain." When my father angrily retorted to their statement, it seems they were taken aback and quickly hung up. While discussing how to handle this with my parents, I decided that seeking professional assistance was the best course of action and resolved to consult a lawyer. Coincidentally, my father was acquainted with a lawyer, and when we explained our situation, he graciously promised to help. I informed the lawyer about the video circulating on social media and detailed past events. When the lawyer reached out on our behalf, my husband was initially taken aback. However, over time, he became defiant. "We'll solve marital issues ourselves. We don't need a lawyer," he argued in a fled tone. However, the lawyer calmly responded, "I'm acting upon Lisa's request. Any future communication should be directed to me. It's up to Lisa, my client, to decide whether or not she wants to involve a lawyer." My husband was at a loss for words, though initially refusing to divorce. When mediation and the possibility of a court case were suggested, the word court seemed to shake him, and he reluctantly agreed to the divorce. I have no interest in the child and have no intention of seeing them in the future, so I don't see why I should pay child support. As for property distribution, I did nothing wrong, he claimed irrationally. The lawyer calmly explained from a legal perspective, but my husband still seemed unconvinced. "In that case, it seems we'll meet in court," the lawyer suggested. My in-laws, who were listening nearby, appeared to panic and immediately agreed. When I was informed of this by the lawyer, I was shocked that I had ever married such a man. I had been communicating with Sarah since returning to my parents' home, and when I told her about the recent events, she playfully and gleefully suggested, "How about seizing your ex-husband's retirement pay? Garnishment is one way, right?" Feeling overwhelmed by Sarah's astuteness, a while later, I was contacted by the lawyer who conveyed that my husband wished to apologize in person. Wanting a satisfactory conclusion, I agreed to converse over the phone under the supervision of the lawyer. The day of the scheduled call arrived. On that day, I was accompanied by my parents and the lawyer. From the other end of the line, I heard, "Finally, you answer. Apologize now, and I'll forgive you. So come back home. Let's be a couple again. The house is a mess. I might lose my job, and everyone's looking at me coldly. All of this is your fault, so take responsibility." He continued to bombard me with accusations. Without being overwhelmed, I calmly chose how to react. When he said, "See, you can't even reply properly, truly a woman with no redeeming qualities," I finally responded, "Just so you know, this conversation is being recorded. I'll keep it as evidence. Goodbye." Hearing this, my husband's voice revealed his shock. "Wait, you recorded it? That's not fair, right?" I was joking. "I'm sorry. I can't live without you. Let's start over. We truly loved each other, right? I promise I'll try harder from now on." After hearing those words, I immediately hung up the phone. With the recorded data in hand, I handed it to the lawyer and asked, "Can you utilize this audio as evidence?" Shaking his head in disbelief, the lawyer remarked, "He truly is an incorrigible man." My parents, feeling the same as me, had firmly decided to sever ties with him. Seeing his behavior filled them more with astonishment and disappointment than anger. At some point, I realized I was slightly enjoying this drama, clinging to the little devilish side of me that emerged. The divorce procedures with my husband concluded smoothly. Both the property distribution and child support agreements went forward without a hitch, and the turmoil began to subside. Due to the information Sarah shared with her husband, the president of my ex-husband's company, he was promptly disciplined. The president, known for his family-oriented values, believed that an employee who couldn't protect his family couldn't be trusted by the company. David lost his job, couldn't make housing loan payments, and returned to his parents' home. His reputation was tarnished by the viral video, and he struggled to find stable employment, barely making ends meet with short-term part-time jobs. Rumors spread about his parents too, and according to reports from Sir's friends in the neighborhood, they seemed to live in perpetual unease. The cold societal judgment they faced, which exceeded my expectations, made me think that, surprisingly, this ostracization might be harder for them than any legal repercussions. With most matters settled and my health recovering, my parents, my baby, and I visited Sarah's home to express our gratitude. Both Sarah and her husband seemed genuinely happy and doted on my baby, making us feel warm and welcomed. After that, Sarah and my mother became close friends. Similarly, Sarah's husband and my father got along very well, and our families grew close. Furthermore, Sarah and her husband's son was around my age, and to everyone's surprise, our relationship began to develop in an unexpected direction. A few years later, the idea that I might actually become a part of Sir family was something no one could have ever predicted. Life truly is full of surprises. Oh no, my bank book is missing. I distinctly remember placing it at the back of this drawer. Could it be them? Despite supporting my eldest son and his wife, who have been living together for several years, they've ignored me for 3 years without even saying thank you. I simply wanted them to show a little gratitude. But it's okay now. I will never forgive them. I'm a 56-year-old retiree, having left my job to care for my unstable mother-in-law. Currently, I work from home while providing care. Although I was a few years away from retirement, I couldn't leave my mother-in-law living alone, so I decided to live with her. My husband is away on business and comes home once a month at best. But when he does, he brings lots of vegetables and Japanese sweets that my mother-in-law likes. Thank you. I'm so grateful for everything you do for me. I wish I could have fed your father too. My mother-in-law says every time she expresses her gratitude to us. My father-in-law passed away over 10 years ago from cancer, unable to eat his favorite foods in the end. My mother-in-law often regrets not having done tests earlier, and she wishes she could have fed him the delicious foods she eats now. My mother-in-law's condition varies greatly from day to day. Some days she's bedridden and barely eats, while on other days she's energetic and goes for a walk by herself. Her unpredictable behavior often surprises me, but as long as she enjoys her days, I'm happy to watch over her. However, there's a troublesome event that occurs 2 or 3 times a month for both my mother-in-law and me. It's when my eldest son and his wife from the neighborhood show up. Mom, Grandma, long time no see. Were you well? We're starving. Can you make something to eat right away? Sorry to intrude, mother-in-law. I'm hungry, so please hurry, they demand. Tom and Catherine, who got married a year ago, frequently visit our house like this, appearing suddenly and even asking for pocket money. They seem to know when the mother-in-law's pension comes in. Hey, Grandma, today's the day your pension comes in, right? Sorry, but could you donate a little to us, the less fortunate? I think to myself, it's starting again. Every time. They don't leave until they get the money. Tom, enough is enough. What about your job? Aren't you working? Stop begging for Grandma's precious pension. However, my attempts to intervene usually end in a quarrel. I relay everything to my husband, who's away on business. He just sighs in exasperation, muttering about what a troublemaker our son is for not holding a steady job. What is he even doing? Just got married. And he's already hopeless, my husband remarks. Though he scolds our son over the phone, it seems to have no effect. This constant cycle of their visits leaves my mother-in-law and me exhausted, losing the will to do anything else. I'm tired, really. It's like they drain all my energy, I confess. Initially, we'd endured their visits, thinking it was only 2 or 3 times a month. But their frequency increased, adding to our stress. Then, in the middle of a weekday, my son suddenly arrived home. I got fired from my job, and for a while, I want to live here, he announced. He had been repeatedly absent without leave, even losing a USB containing important company data. Initially facing a pay cut, he ended up fighting with his boss and getting fired. Despite being clearly at fault, he seemed unrepentant. Seriously, none of them even do their jobs properly and act all high and mighty. That's why I hate people who act like they're elite, my son grumbled. He declared his intention to move in next week, dismissing our concerns about his grandmother's health. Despite my attempts to refuse, he remained stubborn, insisting that his decision was final. Faced with his determination, I couldn't help but sigh. If my husband were here, he would sternly scold them and send them away, but I can't stand up to them alone. Hey, Emily, is Tom moving in here? If so, should I go to a facility? I'll be in the way. And those kids aren't even working, my mother-in-law fretted. Don't worry about such things, mother-in-law. I'll make sure Tom gets a job, and he'll be leaving soon, I reassured her. I feel terribly sorry for making my elderly mother-in-law worry like this. We doted on our only son, but we never intended to raise him to be so unreasonable. The son I knew was kind and considerate, but he clearly changed after meeting his wife, Catherine. To ease my mother-in-law's worries, I offer her assurance. I reassured my mother-in-law, "You don't have to worry about anything. I intend to take good care of you." I repeated my explanation several times, and gradually the tension on her face eased. However, the day my son and his wife moved in arrived sooner than expected. Despite having separate bedrooms, we rearranged the rooms to share one, as my mother-in-law felt insecure being alone. Her desire to share a room highlighted her anxiety. Unfortunately, their behavior from the first day was appalling. "Hey, Mom, we're planning to use the entire second floor for our room. That's okay, right? From today, the second floor bathroom is ours only. You guys don't come upstairs, okay? We're still technically newlyweds, and we don't want unnecessary people coming and going, so please understand," my son announced. They even moved all the stuff from my workroom to the hallway on the same day, leaving me speechless. It became clear that if I stayed silent, they would continue to do and say whatever they wanted. My son added, "Mom, the mortgage on this house is still ongoing, right?" I don't plan to pay rent until I find a job, nor do I intend to pay for groceries or utilities. So take care of it. Feeling increasingly irritated, I reluctantly responded, "Ah, I see." From then on, I was ignored by my son and his wife. A week passed since they moved in, and there were no signs of my son job hunting. His wife left dirty dishes unwashed, neglected laundry, and they freely used our car without asking, leaving it full of trash and low on gas without refueling. Overwhelmed with responsibilities, my mother-in-law, who should be relaxing, ended up helping with the housework. Realizing this was wrong, I confronted my son. "Tom, are you even job hunting? You can't just stay at home all the time. Do something, at least clean up your dishes." However, he continued to ignore me. Complaining to his wife, he said, "Lately, I've been hearing these hallucinations. Just now, I heard something about job hunting or whatever. We have a place to live and food to eat, so why work? Stupid." They laughed about it, referring to my mother-in-law and me as hallucinations and ghosts. Despite our frustration, my mother-in-law and I decided to let them be for a bit longer, believing our chance for payback would come eventually. We constantly talked about them when they weren't around, discussing our options to get them out of the house and make them regret their actions. Sharing a bedroom, we spent the entire day excitedly discussing our plan in this challenging situation. I might have succumbed to depression if I were facing this alone, but being together makes it feel like we can get through it. Almost 3 years have passed since they moved in, and it's been 3 years since they started ignoring us. Perhaps they think we're ghosts. True, they haven't paid a penny for rent or living expenses. Their savings must be running out soon, right? Indeed, they might be covering their cell phone bills and dining out. But I've heard they're estranged from Catherine's parents, so financial help seems unlikely. They may ignore us now, but surely they'll come to us for help once they run out of money. We've decided that's when we'll take our revenge. It was 2 weeks after that conversation, when we were busy preparing for my mother-in-law's clinic visit. I noticed my son acting fidgety since morning, not seeming hungry but searching for something. Knowing he would ignore me if I spoke, I pretended not to notice and left for the hospital. Upon returning home, I discovered my son and his wife were gone, and my bank book was missing. Thinking the worst, I went to check my bedroom. Oh no, my bank book is missing. I'm sure I put it in the back of this drawer. Could it be them? I thought. It was too much, even criminal. My mother-in-law came and asked, "Emily, what's wrong? You look pale. Did something happen?" So, I told her that Tom and Catherine stole my bank book. They took the bank book that was kept here. The house mortgage is $2,000 a month, and on top of that, I've been supporting my son and his wife who haven't paid a penny. This is the result. I didn't expect them to say thank you, but I at least wanted them to show some gratitude. But it's okay now. I will never forgive them. Despite the theft, according to my online banking, no money had been withdrawn from the account yet. I rushed to the bank to close the account. They were mistaken if they thought they could withdraw cash with just the bank book without knowing the PIN and without the seal. The more I thought about it, the angrier I became at my son and his wife. I informed my husband about the stolen bank book, and he said, "It's over. We can disown them for all I care." My mother-in-law suggested reporting to the police, but we decided to leave the house as quickly as possible, making it our last resort. I couldn't let them run wild anymore and refused to be taken advantage of. Despite feeling sorry for the sudden upheaval, we chose to stay at a hot spring inn until the problem was resolved. Mother-in-law, I'm sorry. I'll work on resolving this issue quickly, so please bear with it here for a while. Don't worry about me. Besides, I'm happy to stay at such a luxurious inn. At that moment, I resolved that once this problem was settled, I would definitely find a comfortable new home for my mother-in-law. A few days later, after completing various procedures, I finally had a moment to relax. Then, unexpectedly, I received a call much sooner than I had anticipated, and of course, the caller was my son. "Hello, Mom. You haven't been home lately." Are you on a trip? Gran was not there either, so I was just wondering what happened and got worried, he said, his voice clearly trembling and upset. It's odd, isn't it? He ignored me for 3 years, yet now he can talk when he's in trouble. What's the matter? This is the first time you've spoken to me in 3 years. Do you need something? By the way, I have no business with you guys. Don't say that, please. I don't understand, but we received a notice to vacate the house by the end of the month. It's our own house, so what's going on? He explained. The real estate agent, outraged by our story, had swiftly proceeded with the paperwork, sending the eviction notice within 2 days. Impressed by the real estate agent's prompt action, I decided to reveal the truth to my son. Ah, that house! I sold it because I thought it was no longer needed, and it seems the new buyer wants you to leave soon. What? Even if you say that, we have nowhere to live. Where are you and Grandma now? We'll come there, my son pleaded, still trying to use us even in this situation. Enough is enough, I thought. Why are you crying to me now? What a pathetic man. You freeloaded for 3 years, ignoring me and Grandma. Isn't that a bit too convenient? Just so you know, I intend to cut ties with you. Your father agrees with this decision. Don't say that, please. I didn't mean it. I wanted to get along with you and Grandma, and I'm looking for a job too. My son replied, spilling lies that astonished both my mother-in-law and me. If he had shown genuine remorse, we might have reconsidered, but he had already crossed the line by stealing the bank book. By the way, you stole my bank book from the bedroom, didn't you? What were you planning to do with it? You thought as long as you got the money, everything would be fine, right? Lying won't do you any good. No, that's not. I could tell from the other end of the phone that my son was on the verge of tears. Then, realizing my son was useless, his wife took the phone. Hey, what do you think you're doing? Kicking your son and his wife out of their house. Doesn't your heart ache? Are you a demon? Just as I anticipated what she would say next, my daughter-in-law unleashed a barrage of hysterical insults. She went so far as to claim, "You're just living off Grandma's pension too. You're no different from Tom, acting all high and mighty without a job." I was so shocked that I froze for a moment, mouth hanging open. Joeless, do you think I could pay off the mortgage of that big house if I were jobless? I've been paying $2,000 every month, and for your information, I'm not jobless, I retorted. It felt pointless to reveal the truth. Her level of unawareness was apparent. In reality, I earned about $5,000 a month from my remote work. Still, I saw no need to share these details with them. If they had seen the bank book's contents, they might have figured it out. But hey, Catherine, you're jobless too. Yet you always wear branded items. Where did you get those? I think the one acting strange here is you, I pointed out. I suspected, though couldn't confirm, that she was in debt, always carrying new designer bags and wallets. Even my son, before being fired, worked at a decent company and earned a fair salary. It seemed like she was the one who ruined everything. I have no intention of prying into your private affairs, but if you're in debt, you'd better deal with it quickly before things get out of hand. Also, please leave that house as soon as possible. I'll take my leave now. Despite having more to say, I decided to let them face their impending doom on their own. After hanging up, I ignored all the apology emails from my son. My husband, who had also been contacted, dismissed them with even colder words than I did. We have been ignored until now, but it was our turn to ignore them. They should thoroughly enjoy their hellish lives. A few months later, I heard that the couple had moved out of the house into a shabby apartment. Catherine had accumulated a significant amount of debt. Although my son tried to initiate a divorce, they decided to repay the debt together since it was also in his name. With both of them jobless, they struggled to repay and were now busy working while being chased by debt collectors. Their hellish life continued, but they should try their best to overcome it. As for me, I'm currently considering a house to live in with my mother-in-law. My husband is likely to return from his business trip soon, so we're planning to live together in a comfortable house, enjoying a peaceful and happy life.